The police cruisers boxed to my construction site, as if they were busting a drug ring. 3 cars, lights flashing, sirens echoing across the quiet lakefront morning. I set down my hammer, watching as officers approach with their hands resting casually, but not idly, on their holsters. Trailing behind them, strutting like she just cracked a cold case, was Brenda Harrington, president of the Maplewood Estates HOA. "That's him," she shrieked, jabbing a manicured finger at me. "That's the squatter illegally building on HOA land." The lead officer, a tall man with graying temples, stepped forward. "Sir, I'll need to see some identification and any permits you have for this construction." I reached slowly into my back pocket, pulling out my wallet and a folder of documents I now carried everywhere thanks to Brenda's relentless harassment. "Officer Davidson," I said, reading his name tag. "There's been a mistake. This is my property." Brenda stormed up, face flushed with indignation. "Don't listen to him. This entire lakefront belongs to Maplewood Estates. I have documentation." Officer Davidson raised a hand to quiet her and began flipping through my papers. Deed, survey, water rights dating back to 1922. His eyebrows climbed higher with each page. Finally, he turned to her. "Ma'am," he said, voice dry enough to cut glass. "These documents show this gentleman owns not just this lot, but the entire riverfront from mile marker 7 to mile marker 12. That includes full water access rights." Her face went pale. Mine stayed calm, but I'd been waiting for this showdown. It had all started 3 months earlier, when I began building on the 20 acres my grandfather left me, pristine lakefront untouched since he bought it in the 1950s. Maplewood Estates, the shiny gated community next door, had sprung up in the 1990s, but my land was never part of their HOA. I'd dreamed of this cabin for years. Solar panels for off-grid living, a wraparound deck with a view of the water, a dock for the little boat I'd picked up last summer. After decades in the city as a software engineer, I wanted weekends that smelled like pine instead of asphalt. Trouble arrived on day 2 of construction. I was marking the foundation when a golf cart tore down the dirt path, dust rising behind it. Out stepped Brenda Harrington, storming toward me like she was landing on Omaha Beach. "Excuse me," she barked. "What do you think you're doing?" "Building a cabin. Can I help you? This is HOA property. You can't start construction without board approval." I kept my voice steady, though my patience was already fraying. "This isn't HOA property. This land is mine." She actually laughed, a sharp, disbelieving sound. "All lakefront access here belongs to Maplewood Estates. I don't know what scam you're running, but I'm shutting this down." That was the start of a 3-month harassment campaign. Every morning I'd find new notices taped to my equipment. Cease and desist letters, unauthorized construction warnings, all destined for my burn pile. Then came the trespassing. My trail cameras caught her sneaking in at all hours, taking photos, measuring, prowling like some discount private investigator. One morning I found her literally standing in the foundation I poured, clipboard in hand. "Brenda," I called out, making her jump, "you're trespassing again." "I'm documenting HOA violations," she snapped. "The noise alone is disturbing our residents' peace and tranquility. The nearest house is half a mile away," I pointed out, "and it's 10 a.m. on a Tuesday. I'm well within legal construction hours." "We'll see what our lawyers say about that," she huffed, retreating to her golf cart. The lawyers never appeared. Instead, the harassment escalated. She began bringing other board members to stand at what they thought was a property line, muttering and snapping photos. One day, she even brought along an environmental compliance officer, who I'm pretty sure was just her nephew in a polo shirt. The breaking point came when I arrived to find she'd erected her own signs. "Private property, Maplewood Estates HOA," along an imaginary boundary. That's when I started carrying my documents everywhere. Those signs he'd come down, I told her during her next daily visit. "Make me," she said with a smirk. "I've called the real authorities this time. The police are coming to remove you from our property." And now here we were, Officer Davidson examining my papers while Brenda's face cycled through shades of purple. "This can't be right," she sputtered. "The HOA owns all water access. We've been using that beach for 20 years. Using it and owning it are two different things, ma'am, Officer Davidson replied. According to these documents, you've been trespassing on this gentleman's property for 20 years. I spread the survey map across the hood of the police car, letting the evidence speak for itself. My grandfather owned everything from here. I pointed to the northern boundary on the survey map. To here, that includes the beach your community has been using, the hiking trail along the river, and the boat launch. Brenda's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. The other officers leaned in, reviewing the map, and I caught a few trying to hide their smirks. One muttered something about yet another HOA president, and the rest nodded knowingly. But we maintain that beach. Brenda stammered. We pay for sand replenishment. We installed the picnic tables. On my property, I cut in calmly. Without permission. That's technically vandalism. Officer Davidson handed my documents back. Sir, do you want to press trespassing charges? Sounds like this has been ongoing. I let the question hang for a moment, while Brenda's face drained from purple to chalk white. Not today, officer, but I will be putting up boundary markers and no trespassing signs. Anyone who crosses them will be prosecuted. You can't do this. Brenda shrieked. The entire community uses that beach. Our property values depend on lake access. I shrugged. Should have thought of that before you tried to steal my land. The officers left after warning her about filing false police reports. Brenda just stood there, clipboard clutched in her hands, her authority crumbling like a stale biscuit. Word spread through Maplewood Estates faster than wildfire in August. By that evening, my phone was buzzing nonstop, board members, residents, all desperate to talk about lake access. The story grew with each retelling. By the time it reached the back of the subdivision, apparently I owned half the county and was planning to build a casino. The next morning, 15 residents gathered at my construction site, not with torches or pitchforks, just nervous expressions and a lot of awkward energy. A man in khakis and a golf shirt stepped forward. Mr. Peterson, I'm Jack Sullivan, Vice President of the HOA Board. We'd like to discuss lake access. Nothing to discuss, I replied, continuing my work. It's my property. Has been since 1952. Jack nodded, shooting Brenda, lurking at the back of the crowd, a glare sharp enough to cut glass. We understand that now, but the community has been using that beach for decades. And I've been paying taxes on it for decades, I countered. Funny how no one mentioned that while spreading sand on my beach. A woman in yoga pants spoke up. We had no idea. Brenda told us the HOA owned everything to the waterline. The group's collective glare shifted toward Brenda, who looked like she'd swallowed a lemon whole. Jack cleared his throat. We're calling an emergency board meeting tonight. The community needs to know exactly what land we do and don't control. Brenda, you should prepare a full report on how this misunderstanding happened. That meeting was apparently explosive. My neighbor Tom filled me in later, chuckling over the fence. You should have seen it. Residents demanded to know how Brenda screwed this up so badly. Turns out she never even checked the property records. Just assumed the HOA owned the beach because they maintained it. She tried blaming the previous board, then the county, then you for not correcting her sooner. No one bought it. The vote of no confidence was unanimous, minus her own vote, of course. Jack's president now. But Brenda's downfall wasn't over. 3 days later, I began building a split-rail fence to mark the true boundary. Nothing aggressive, just clear, visible lines. I also set posts for private property, no trespassing signs my lawyer had recommended. That's when Brenda made her final mistake. At 2 a.m, my trail cameras caught her trying to rip out my fence posts with her Mercedes. The bumper tangled in the wire, and she ended up dragging 50 feet of fencing before the car got stuck in a ditch. This time, I pressed charges: destruction of property, trespassing, and vandalism. The judge was not amused. Mrs. Harrington, he said, peering over his glasses as the footage played. You've shown a pattern of harassment and criminal behavior that's frankly shocking for someone in a position of community leadership, or former leadership, I should say. The sentence: $12,000 in fines, restitution for my offense, 200 hours of community service, and a restraining order keeping her 500 feet from my property. The look on her face was like someone realizing they'd bet their house on a three-legged horse. $12,000, she gasped. But I was protecting our community. The gavel came down with a crack. You weren't protecting your community, Mrs. Harrington. You were protecting your ego. Consider yourself lucky I'm not adding jail time.